Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Exhausted Sparrows Unite. I am your host, Krista Jones, with my co-host, Chantel Schaefer, and we've decided that this week's episode really needs to be around one of our recent life's experiences. You know, sometimes life is just hard, right? You just show up and there's challenges, and some things we choose, and some things we don't. And in those moments, it's when we find out what we're really made of. So recently, Chantel and I did this really crazy thing called a Ragnar race. Ridiculous, right? An amazing 200-mile team race where you run through the night, you trade off legs with your teammates. It's sweaty, exhausting, hilarious, all those things. It's just hard. And during those hard miles when I was out there, I was kind of like, this isn't just about running. This is about life. So today we're going to talk about that run, but we're really talking about why hard things matter. Not just to prove that we can do them, but because the challenges actually shape us. They give us grit and connection and perspective. You've already got your own Ragnar. Maybe it's parenting or healing. Maybe it's that you're going through a really brutal week at work. Whatever that race looks like for you, this conversation is something that you don't want to miss. So we did a thing. It was a Ragnar.
We did a thing.
And I kind of got suckered into the thing. I didn't realize that Chantel all along wanted to do the thing.
It was just one of those, I want to do it one time.
Right. So a bunch of our friends were talking, a bunch of our fit friends, and they were saying like, hey, let's do this thing. And so I didn't know Chantel already kind of knew about it. They were going back and forth in text. And one of the ladies wrote me on the side. She goes, please do this with me. It is going to be at the beach. It's Virginia Beach. And I was like, oh, she was like, yeah, you're running on the boardwalk and it's free. And like, it is going to be amazing. And I was like, all right, like Virginia Beach. Like, I think, we are here in New York. Welcome, New Yorkers and non-New Yorkers. And we are taping the podcast in September when it's starting to get a little bit chilly. So I was like, I would love to be at Virginia Beach. And then very quickly, like within 2 weeks, she wrote me back and she goes, it's not Virginia Beach, it's Vermont. I had the wrong V. And I'm like, oh, all right. So I'm telling my family and my friends that I'm going to Vermont to run along the beach. And everybody's like, where is the beach in Vermont? And I'm like, I still don't have any idea. And then the week of the run, somebody started saying New Hampshire. And I was like, am I going to New Hampshire? Because it was originally Virginia Beach, which I was really down for. And then Vermont, I was like, I don't know, I think I could be down for this. And then I was like, New Hampshire, I feel like that is just a mountain.
And let me tell you, we discovered that Krista's allergic to the entire state of New Hampshire.
And we will get to that in just a moment. We will talk about those challenges in just a moment. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So we decided that we were going to do this run.
Should we start with you signed up to be a driver?
Yeah. I wasn't planning to run anything, but I didn't realize that signing up, that just meant that was my role in the van. I also had to run. So I thought I was just driving you guys around.
Yeah, no.
And that did not happen. And then our captain, we love her. She has done a Ragnar race before. So she, very organized, kind of had these lists and spreadsheet and things. And I felt really good. Had any of this been what we needed on the trip of a lifetime, which it wasn't. But I wanted to talk about all of this because signing up for this, right, originally felt like madness, right? And saying yes to something that I was completely unprepared for. And I'm like, we're doing a podcast on this because that's life sometimes. Sometimes you get a choice and you take a risk. And sometimes you don't get the choice whether you say yes or no. You have to do it, right? So you are not ready, but you're thrown into it.
And that was absolutely this weekend. I don't think anything could have prepared us for what we endured.
So first we said yes, which is great. And I think I want to capture that. That is where growth happens. We talk about this all the time. It does. I know that like we were miserable in the moment, guys. In the moment, we were like, this sucks. How can we get out of this? Like in the middle of the mountain. But growth does not happen without challenge. And we were completely challenged that weekend.
It was 35 hours of challenge.
Yes. Which, by the way, we'll give you guys a little bit of background on this, right? We did not realize going into it. We thought that everyday people do this stuff. We were so proud of ourselves as we were going through this run because we thought it was going to take us about 36 hours to do. Mm-hmm. Took us 35 hours to do. And we averaged 10 minutes and 30 seconds a mile, which if you really think about 200 miles of that, like I was like high-fiving Chantel, tapping us on the back.
I mean, just the elevation gain alone, the mountain, literal mountains that all of us were running up. And that they maintained that pace.
They didn't go down. I think that's important to talk about.
I can't tell you how many people have said, well, once you go up, you have to come down. I said, no.
We did not go down.
No.
That was the other van. That was not our van. We just kept climbing and climbing. And we were like, this is amazing. We are doing this a whole hour before we're supposed to. We got to the finish line. We were one of the last teams left out of 3,500 people, 360 teams of 12s, mostly some 6s. We were like, literally, they were ready to shut down the streets. I was happy we got a hamburger. But like when the rest of our team got in, they literally were shutting everything down. We were like last. The people that won were like 6-minute mile. That is the average they kept. And they did it in like 30 hours.
Yeah. Insanity.
And so I think that was important too. Right, being proud of wherever you are, that there are always going to be people that are going to be in front of you. And we had a team of really strong runners. We had women that were in the 9s, which I consider an amazing mile. But even for them to be passed by people that were just so much faster, it's such an amazing experience. And the fact that, man, that stuff humbled you really quick.
Very quick.
Really quick. And then in the middle of all of this, we were teasing about this a little bit, but it reminds me of life. We were talking about that flight or fight instinct. We could not fly. There was nowhere to go. So we really, in our van especially, we really had to I mean, honestly, I think we just put, our hoods over our heads, dug deep and just went, because there are times in life, not just this Ragnar, this really is a metaphor for life, that you don't have a choice but to go through it, and you've just got to grit your teeth and go. It's a growth mindset.
Yeah. I mean, there were points. I mean, I think one of your legs was it's called a non-support. No van support, meaning your van of other runners can be nowhere near you. You're running on a trail. You're in the woods. There are no cars. You don't have any option but going through it.
And ladies and gentlemen, just remember, that was my leg. And that is where I think I stepped on a nettle. And we'll talk about that later. But, people say, and there is research that backs it up, that you will develop skills through effort. And you will be more resilient when hard things show up. So if you don't challenge yourself, if you don't go in these things where you grow, you are going to be the person that maybe littler things, have you falling apart at the seams.
Yeah.
And so that was a great way to look at it. That's just what I kept telling myself, somewhere in this, I must be growing somewhere. Something must be happening. And the brain resists discomfort because it's craving us to be predictable, right? So if we're predictable all the time, right, we get into this, I don't know, lack of a better word, calmness. We get into this comfort zone, and life really isn't comfort.
Yeah, you get complacent.
And there are times in your life when sickness comes, you know, that's what we do here at Sparrow's Nest. We feed people through cancer. There are times when a parent dies, a friend gets sick, a divorce happens, parenting doesn't go the way you need it to go. You know, there are things in life that you just can't control. And believe it or not, forcing yourself to do hard things at different times of your life by choice help you when you have no choice.
I did not realize that.
But it's true because, right, you have to get these coping mechanism skills together. You got to figure it out. So if you're never challenged, when you really hit something that you don't have a choice with, you really could fall apart. You don't have the tools. And so do I feel I should do a Ragnar every 6 months? No, I do not. But I think like that's how I was looking at it. I was like, all right, we chose this. It's really hard. Get these coping mechanism skills in here because you can't get out of it. What are you going to do next?
You know, it's interesting. I read a book called The Anxious Generation, and it must have fallen out of my head, but you talking about it made me remember that part of that book explains that we need to stop helping our kids so much and letting them struggle for a bit, because our kids are growing up without those problem solving skills and the coping mechanisms, because we're so quick to fix it so they don't suffer. And this is the same thing. Like, I could have called the van at mile 3 of my last leg and said, come get me, I'm done. But I never would have learned how to push through that wall.
It's true. And I think that's such a great analogy that you used our kids with this, right? I think that we are in a society that coddles our kids. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, my generation is a little bit before your generation, but my generation was the one that really had those commercials that said, do you know your kid is at 10 o'clock at night? Like, like my parents were like, you know, I'm locking the door. See you, you know, when the lights come on, it's time for dinner. So, you know, that did help me to go through some hard things. But our parenting, that is a really great point. You know, how we parent also teaches our children, and we want our kids to have common sense. Mm-hmm. There are some things, you know, like my kids are like, I don't know where the doctor's office is. I'm like, you are on social media 24 hours a day. Google it. Mm-hmm. Find the phone number. Talk to a human being. But you are so right that if we are not making things uncomfortable for others in our lives at times, they're not learning lessons.
No. So like at the beginning of the school year, my kid's bus stop got moved, and it got moved onto another street. And at first I was mad. I was angry. My kid shouldn't have to walk that far. And like after a week of school, I went, my kids are 9 and 11. They can figure out how to get themselves from the bus stop to home. I need to stop making it safe and comfortable all the time, and they have to figure these things out. And guess what? They get off the bus and they walk themselves home. I don't know why I was so upset about it.
Well, I mean, that's us as adults, right? And we live in a society now where, you know, everything is just so crazy and there's just so much drama, and you're not a good parent if, you know, you're not baking the beautiful mermaid cake. I keep going back to my mermaid cake, which was awful.
Can you please bake a mermaid cake for the Ragnar Mermilers?
Oh, I will. That was the name of our team, the Mermilers. I didn't even talk about that story during this whole run, but it's all about the growth, right? And going through something that is hard. And then running in the dark. I want to talk about that because a lot of times you're running into things or away from things that you can't identify, you can't even see. I was not able to run my night race. So really and truly, it is funny. I don't know what happened. I had to run through a state park, my first leg. And the second, if any of you have ever been in a Ragnar, there's 2 vans, 6 and 6 usually in a van. So I was the end of my vans, right? I was the person that did, you know, the last. I was the 6th person. I then, you know, was the person that handed it off to the next van, the next runner. The minute that I gave her this slap bracelet, so much fun, I started sneezing. And then I didn't stop sneezing. And then I ended up with a fever. And I had to run that night at midnight, which actually turned into like 11 because we were ahead of schedule. And I was going to do it. And then I wasn't sure. And then in the back of the van, everybody was like, you don't have to do this. And then I'm like, I'm going to push myself because that's my mentality. But I knew I had more to do, right? So sometimes too, you have to make decisions for what's going to happen later. And it was probably the hardest decision I ever made. It was okay. They take your average miles. You're allowed to do that for one leg. So that was all fine. But for me, I was watching women run 7, 8, 9 miles. I was watching them do an 11 mile. And I thought, my gosh, I couldn't do, 6 in the dark. So I was kind of kicking myself. But while you guys were all out there in the dark, which by the way was dangerous, and it was amazing to watch you guys get through that. You guys were all like in the evening. There was very little shoulder. You had to have all your running gear on and pay attention to cars. It just made me realize that like a lot of times you don't have to see the whole path. You just have to see whatever the headlight is showing you in front, right? You got to see the steps are in front of you. Mm-hmm. Some of us get so caught up as to, is there going to be a bear down the road? What in the world is in the dark waiting for me? Like, you just got to see what's in front of you. That's what you have to deal with, whatever's in front of you. So like when you guys were out there, like I was thinking of all these things, you'd be proud of me. I was having profound moments, or I was delirious from the 104-degree fever. I don't know. But I was thinking like of all that, like that's life.
It is life.
How many times do we get ourselves so Twitter-pated over things that we can't see? We did an episode on anxiety. Mm-hmm. How many times do we make this whole thing because we're looking out at what we think is going to be out there, and then it's never that anyways?
Well, I got myself quite Twitter-pated on that run because I could hear the rustling in the woods.
Exactly, but you saw nothing.
I saw nothing.
So that's good.
It made me run really fast though.
And I think too, when we're looking so far out, we miss what's right in front of us. And that's dangerous.
That's how you fall in a hole.
That's how you fall in a hole with anything, with parenting, with your marriage, with, sometimes we are thinking so far into the future, we're not dealing with the here and now. And I say that to my kids, and I'm sure you say it to your kids all the time, like even at the dinner table, like stop, be in the present moment. Yeah. Well, why do we say that? Because we don't know what the future is. So why are we thinking about the future and trying to predict a future when we're even giving our kids these life lessons like put your phone down, be in the present, make the memories here. So I was kind of thinking about all that when you guys were out there.
You really were having some profound moments.
I was, because there was a lot of lessons in that to me that were life lessons. Do any of you want to do a Ragnar? You should. You should push yourself. Maybe don't do the New Hampshire one. That's for an ultra elite group.
Hills. Lots of hills.
Yeah, that's true. But training yourself not to know everything, right, builds resilience. And I'll tell you what I did. And I think you did it as well until really the race. We didn't look at our elevations.
Nope.
We didn't look at anything because I know for me, if I'm looking at things that might make me nervous, I'm going to dwell on that and I'm going to really talk myself out of something I need to do. So sometimes research is important, but you have to know what type of a personality you are as well, because sometimes you'll talk yourself right out of that big thing that is going to be an amazing thing. So sometimes I feel too much information is not a good thing.
That's true. So for me, I didn't look before the run.
Me neither.
But while I was on my last leg, which was 8.5 miles with over 500 feet of elevation up and down and up and down.
And you were doing that in the direct sun. It was like 11 o'clock. It was pretty hot.
I did pull up that elevation map, so I knew when I was going to get a break. So I knew, all right, I'm getting close to the top of this. I'm almost done. I'm almost there. It's almost over.
Because you were in the moment.
Yes.
So you were just, what's right ahead of me?
But if I looked before we loaded up in that van, I would not have been in New Hampshire. For sure.
Right.
I would have bailed.
Right.
100%.
Sometimes if you look into that job and all the criteria, and you know what I mean? Like a job interview, like anything. If you want to do something in your life and sometimes you look too deep and you're like, oh, well, I've never really managed those projects before that are specific to, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're looking so deep that you talk yourself out of something. And if you would have just gone through it, you have enough that you would have gotten that job. It would have been your personality. It would have been something that would have compensated for something maybe that you lack. And like in that moment, while I was watching you guys out there running, I was like, we are afraid of the dark. We are often afraid of what we can't see. But at the end of the day, most of that works itself out. And honestly, you can't even control most of it.
Absolutely.
So you just got to get in the middle of it. So I was like, okay. And you know what, like you said, it makes a lot of sense. You were breaking it down like into smaller tasks, smaller pieces. Like, all right, I have a mile left or 2 miles left. So you know what? I can look at that map now because now it's just going to get me to the end.
Yep.
So you were knowing where you were feeling comfortable because you were more than halfway through and you knew, all right, now let me see it. Like, I love that, and even as important, what do I know right now for sure? I know right now in front of me, the path is clear. I know right now in front of me that a lot of these job skills I have. I know right now in front of me, whatever it is with your marriage, with whatever it is, here's the things that I can control so that, they don't escalate to get to something bigger. So it's always about doing the hard things, but yet in the middle of doing those hard things, how much can you handle? Right?
Yeah.
Without overload. Fair?
Absolutely.
And then the power of having a team.
You ladies, it was really cool because while we were out there on the path, the van at most legs could pull up and cheer in multiple spots, or they would drive by ringing cowbells and screaming and you got this and what do you need? Like, priceless.
We all need van people.
Yeah, y'all need to find your van.
You need to find your van. And it's probably going to be smelly and cramped and tired, but you need a van full of cheerleaders.
Yes.
That's what you need in your life. You need not only to find people that are cheering for you as you go by, you need to find people that cheer for you when you leave a room. That's important. And I think that was great. Our Captain Carlene had us in 2 different vans. And, the way that she worked it out was amazing. The other van was the type that went. Most of them a little bit younger. I mean, Chantel was the youngest in our van, but she had us in, I would say, a more reflective van, a more maybe subdued van, but like we wanted to get a couple hours sleep. There were things that were important to us that maybe weren't as important to that other van. And it was perfectly placed. So it worked exactly the way that it was supposed to work.
It was awesome.
And we both had experiences that were completely different from each other, but it's because we were with people that really helped our personalities.
Yeah, it was just everybody complimented each other really nicely.
Right.
I don't know. It was like soul feeding.
Yeah. And we weren't alone. And we talk about that all the time, like the science behind that. We always talk about like adrenaline and cortisol and like all this stuff. And when you are around people, that social connection actually lowers your stress hormones. Even if you're the kind of person, like you say, you're an introvert, it's still nice to feel the hum in the room, to hear the talking in the back, even if it's not like you're hugging somebody and you're crying and having a kumbaya moment. There's a comfort in just knowing that there are people there that are ready to pull you up.
Yep.
And to clap for you, right? And I think that is so important for all of us, and that's something that we need to know. And they say you need 3 people.
3.
You only need 3 people in your van. 3 people that you can call at 2 a.m. So that's my homework if you're listening today. Who are those 3 people for you? Because that's really important. And I think it changes sometimes with the seasons. And that's okay. You may outgrow people, new people come into your life. And the 3 people could be 3 completely different people in 3 completely different situations. Like I might have a group that would be my Ragnar group. I might have a group that would be my marital group. I have a spiritual group, like whatever that looks like for you. Who are those 3 people that at 2 a.m. that you would be calling that have a supportive relationship that builds you up, right? And then asking for the help of it. Because we talk about that in some of our episodes too. We, talked about that early on, and those of us that have such a hard time asking for help. But like one of the tools really is that you need to be able to say to people, hey, can you talk? Hey, can you sit with me? Hey, do you mind if I kind of just run something by you? Who are those people in your life? Who are the people that are part of your team?
That's important.
And then getting through your wall and experiencing your breakthrough. In the running world, right? We all hit a wall. We say in the half marathon world, that wall is somewhere around mile 9, not mile 9. If you are a much better runner than Krista Jones, you might be like, I think it's like an 11.5. Krista Jones at mile 9 is like, I want my mom. Like, I'm just a mess usually at mile 9. Like, where are your legs burning, right? Your mind is screaming that you want to quit, but you're pushing yourself through anyways. Where is your wall? And then how do you get to your breakthrough? That is important, because in the middle of the hard things, in the middle of anything that challenges us to grow, there is a wall that we have to scale. And there is a breakthrough that we need to make. And how do we get there to do it? Especially in a situation where you can't go back. Right? Because the wall, I think people feel, oh, I hit the wall. The wall means like that's the end. Like I need to go back. The wall's not the end. The wall is the block that you need to get over. You can scale a wall. Like there's, I can't scale. I don't know. Gosh, that mud run we did. Whoa! I was not scaling anything. I was like,
We've
this is
done a
awful.
lot of ridiculous things this year, haven't we?
We have done some ridiculous things. I think it's in the last 3 months, but like all of that is so important, because here's the thing. The brain is telling us to quit before your body is actually depleted. That's how it is on a run. Your mind quits in anything you do before physically you are ready to quit, right? Your brain is telling you, I can't possibly save this marriage. I can't possibly do this job any longer. I can't possibly lose this weight, right? Your brain is telling you that way before your physical body is ready to give up. I can't possibly get through this death. I can't possibly discipline my kids and be a single mom any longer. Your brain is already tricking you into believing you have failed before your body is ready to give up.
Wow.
But it's true.
It is true.
Think about that in our running world. Right? When you're out there on those long miles and like you're just going up, and then you hit this crest, and then we had to go back up. We didn't go down. We just went back up. Right there were so many defeating moments for me.
And what's interesting is that wall moves every time. It's not always in the same place. I can go out and run 6, 7, 8 miles and not hit a wall. But on that third leg at mile 2, I was done. I was about to pick up the phone and call my husband and say, send help, talk to me. I'm in tears. I'm done. I cannot possibly make it another single step. And I've never hit that wall at 2 miles.
Sure.
But it's all the situations that have led up to that moment. I mean, we were in the most imperfect of circumstances. We were underfed, under-rested, sleeping in a van.
We were
waking
cranky.
up way too early.
We were cranky pots.
We were very cranky.
We were cranky.
And I started that run saying, this is gonna be awful.
Yeah. Because you're already thinking that, right? You got this
Yes.
preconceived notion.
Yep.
We're in the middle of gala here at Sparrow's Nest. We do this big farm to table gala, and we have had to do a bunch of things and hard things and millions of things just in the last 2 weeks. We really kind of run this $250,000, $300,000 event with like 5 of us, like a skeletal crew. And I've been pretty good. And then today, I just, within 5 minutes of being here, like snapped at pepper jelly, because that was my wall today. 2 weeks, I've been great. Today, my wall is pepper jelly, which is so silly and dumb. But you're right. Depending on your circumstances and how tired you are in the middle of whatever it is, this hard thing that you need to do, that's where your wall is for that day. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's okay when you want to quit. A lot of times you have to say like, why am I here? Or if I quit, what happens? Like really not quitting. What do I really need to get to? Like, why am I doing this? Because our brain is going to go. So there was a point in the run where, the van, I think, came up on me in one of my last legs, and I must have looked ridiculous. I don't know what it looked like from the back because I didn't expect you guys. I did. I had my hand in the air and I was praying. I really was, because I was already tired and I was a mile in, and I was like, okay, all right, why am I here? And that's what I did. And I was like, I know why I'm here. I know I got to get it done. That is my tool to get me through something. Whatever your tool is, doesn't have to be my tool, but like, write it down. You have to override all these false stop signs, because that's what they are. It's your brain going, you can't do it, when we all know you really can do it, right? And, and you have to just take a minute or two and give yourself the pity party. But we say it in a lot of episodes, then get out of it.
Yep.
Stinking thinking, get out, because it doesn't do anybody any good.
Nope.
These emotional walls, trauma, grief, burnout, they all operate the same way. It's the brain trying to protect yourself, but there's no proof that you need that protecting. The brain is just, your cortisol is so crazy. It's like we're in trouble, when really it's just a stress indicator. You're not in trouble yet. You need to keep going. You need to plow through. I say that, and I'm really passionate about that, because I think a lot of times we want to just stop.
Yeah. And it's easy to stop.
And we don't give ourselves credit for how amazing we really are, how unique you are, how important you are to this world, how you shouldn't stop metaphorically, spiritually, mentally, your physical being. There is no reason on this earth that you should not be here doing all the things, even the hard things. And I think sometimes we feel defeated.
Yeah. Yeah. But think about how amazing it feels when you make it.
That's true, right? That is kind of where it all comes in. Like, once you get to whatever the finish line is. And that's kind of, I think, what we talk about is the finish line, crossing whatever it is that you had to do off your bucket list. You're exhausted, but what? You're proud, right? You feel a sense of accomplishment, and you can look back at all you did and say, I did that. Like, I just did all that.
It's been so cool to just bask in that, so just to sit back and say 12 women just ran 200-ish miles.
Really, without training, let's be honest. We are all at the gym and stuff, and we do some runs, but we really didn't realize there really is no sleep and there really is no food.
And how much climbing there was.
Right. So, to do things like that and to say I wasn't even prepared for what was thrown in front of me, and I still pivoted and I still figured out a way to get through it. That is pretty cool. Coming out of hard seasons, like research shows, it really does give us, greater strength. It gives us deeper purpose, usually closer relationships. And it's not despite the pain, it's because of it. Mm-hmm. It's because of what you had endured that you can talk to other people, that you can now preach to other people, that you can motivate other people. And really, like, I try to do that all the time, because I'm not in any way bashing myself, but I don't think that people look at me and just say things like, you could do that and it will be easy for you. So I love that. I love that, because physically you might not feel that way about me. But if I can say to you, I was able to do this thing and I was able to get through this thing, just like the charity. I mean, my gosh, I had wall after wall after wall. And people were like, yeah, you're probably not meant to do it. You're not that far in the journey. Just give up. But to get through it and then to say to people, I remember when that door was closed behind me. I remember when people laughed at me. I remember when I lost friendships. To be able to give somebody that experience because you've done it, like, think of what a mentor you could be for somebody else in whatever the hard thing is that's going on in your life. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway today.
I like that takeaway.
How are you feeling about it? What's the t-shirt?
Good. What's the t-shirt?
What's the t-shirt for the week?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
Squink.
We're tired. The t-shirt is squink. We were making up words at the end of this Ragnar because we couldn't think of words because we were so tired. So I don't know. We were trying to say squish in and we said squink or something like it.
Who's in your van?
Who's in your van? That is a good shirt. That's an inspirational shirt. Our graphic designer, Chris Lemieux, we're going to have her work on that. Hard things matter, not because we love the pain, but because the struggle actually rewires us. Saying yes to hard things reminds us that we're braver than we thought. Running in the dark proves that the light always will return. Oh, I could cry. Finding your team teaches you that life was never be meant to run solo. Pushing through the wall, that's where your resilience is. Your finish line, it's messy, it's imperfect, but it's glorious. Here's my invitation for you this week. What is your Ragnar? What is the hard thing that you're facing? Maybe it's massive, maybe it's tiny, maybe you don't want to do it. Either way, honor it. When you hit the finish line, whatever it is, look up. Don't rush. Enjoy it. Celebrate it and say to yourself, I did this hard thing, because the truth is you did. And that's how you grow. Thank you so much for spending time with Chantel and I today. If this resonates with you, share it with somebody that's in your van. We want you to learn more about our beautiful charity at sparrowsnestcharity.org. And until next time, take care of yourself and each other.